That's lovely. Over to you. Thank you very much, Sion.
Thank you. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate you taking the time to let us run through a bit of an introduction of who Servicely is, and then we'll dive into the product and do a bit of a demo and show you what we're doing here at Servicely and how we're using artificial intelligence to really augment the service desk to improve productivity and drive customer service. So first off, I think it's useful to really set the scene in looking at the Servicely architecture from a platform perspective. We are really a newer vendor in this market space, and as such, we've had the benefit of starting from scratch and building not only a native SaaS-based application, but also looking at artificial intelligence and how we bring that into our platform. So if we have a look at the fundamental platform capability that we offer, is we are an enterprise service model. And we've heard discussions around enterprise service management and really bringing a single point of contact for the employee or customer. At the core of our system is the single enterprise service model, and what that provides to you as a customer is a single architecture, but with shared resources and a single data model. And what that allows you to do is to start to run your business with a single system of record. So regardless of if a particular record started off in the IT service desk and resulted in tickets or tasks being assigned or created to HR or anywhere else in the business, you have full visibility across the lifespan of that particular ticket or record, because it's a single system of record. We have the employees on the one side and the business on the other side, and ultimately the business or the departments provide those services to ensure the employees are servicing the customers. And then what we've done is we've embedded AI within the platform. When we started out, we went on the view that we could provide an AI capability to existing service desks, and what we found is often the case is that the data simply does not exist when you start getting into the machine learning and training models, where it's a simple case of it's broken and it's fixed and you have no idea of what happened in between. And that's no fault of the tool, that's just a reality of how people have historically captured these records. So what we needed to do was solve the problem at the platform level of how we could observe and understand how issues were being resolved in order to create a data set that we could start to train the models. And as a consequence of that, we've implemented our own platform capability that has allowed us to then use that platform to essentially build out these vertical applications. And one of those applications, and our core go-to-market application, is around the IT service desk and aligned to ITIL. So everything you'd expect to see from a mature service desk, from incident, problem, change, service level, catalog, all those capabilities available to you straight out the box, pre-configured based on best practice of implementing service desks out there in various customers. But also importantly, what the platform offers you is the ability to extend into non-IT workflow parts of the business while still having the single system of record. And we'll see in a moment what that looks like. In addition to that, we will continue to build out applications based on customer demand that we will include as part of the platform. Some of the ones we're seeing a lot of demand for include things like project portfolio management. We're now starting to see customer service management. So we're now not only servicing the inside of the business with the platform, we're now also servicing externally to customers coming in and logging requests. And often that results in call comes in from a customer, but invariably that may need to go to another department in the back end to service. How do we look at enterprise service management in that context? So I touched on the challenges that we initially found when looking to develop a system to drive artificial intelligence and improve efficiency, and I mentioned the lack of data. So what we've done is we've implemented in the platform this concept of observe, where we observe how agents are solving issues and creating a feature-rich data set that we can then use for training. We then learn from that training or train the machine using this feature-rich data set to really get rich data models to understand how do we resolve issues faster, and how do we provide augmentation to the service desk. Often what's the case on the service desk is, depending on how long you've been on the service desk, really determines how efficient you can solve issues and the level of customer service you can deliver. Because if you've never seen the issue before, you need to go through a diagnostic process of trying to figure it out, as opposed to somebody who's seen it before. Problem is the service desk tends to have a higher level of churn as people get promoted in the organization, and that tribal knowledge leaves with that person. So what we seek to solve is capturing that tribal knowledge in the machine and then using the machine to augment the service agents to make them more efficient and effective at solving issues. And ultimately, as the system becomes more intelligent over time, is what we then look at doing is how do we now start to drive automation? How do we actually now resolve either in machine time or provide recommendations and doing diagnostics in machine time to really reduce call handle times and improve the customer service experience. So ultimately, what we're looking at when we look at intelligent service management is the ability to reduce that cost per ticket, really driving up the customer satisfaction. We're reducing downtime, increasing business productivity, federating knowledge. So we're able to connect to external knowledge sources, whether that be in Confluence or whether that be in SharePoint or a Google Drive, is to federate that knowledge and make the right knowledge available at the right time in order to increase our first call resolution, but also reducing those resolution times by bringing more of that intelligence to the service desk and ultimately taking that to the self-service portal, which we'll see in a moment. So with that, I will just very quickly switch screens across to my demo instance. Okay, so what you should see now is an instance of, that should be the screen, so I should see it. So what you should be seeing now is so we're a native SaaS application, purely browser-based. We're running AWS, so they're able to run in any AWS data center where they have a point of presence, solving issues around data sovereignty, etc. And what we have is our standard out-the-box self-service portal. This is fully configurable, drag and drop, various widgets that we provide to you out the box, but also allow you to create your own widgets if you have the skills in-house or would like to work with a partner to build out very specific widgets for your portal. That's fully supported. You can have multiple portals within the system, or you can have a single portal in a hierarchy where you have an entry point and then you can have HR facilities, etc. So it's entirely up to you as to how you set up your portal capability. Within the portal is we've got our virtual agent embedded into the portal, and the virtual agent uses natural language to understand what some of the issues may be. So if I were to come in as an end user and said something along the lines of, I can't log in, what we'll see is the virtual agent fires up and says, okay, I understand that you're having an issue accessing a system. It's able to check based on the user that's logged in, which of the business services or applications that I may subscribe to, depending on how you've set up your CMDB. And it then prompts me to say, okay, well, which application is it that you're having an issue accessing? In our scenario, we'll simply we'll select Outlook. And what you'll see over here is we're able to actually connect to external systems and go and execute particular actions. So in this particular instance, we would have gone to an Active Directory server, checked the account, and we've come back and said, your account looks fine. Would you like to reset your password? Yes, I would. We then have the security challenge questions. So we had a BMW, lack of creativity. Our first pet's name was dog. And again, what we see is the system goes off and says, okay, I'll go and unlock your account for you. Okay, your account should now be unlocked. Can you please try it and confirm whether it works? In this instance, we'll say, yes, it worked. Great, excellent. Log a call in the service desk so we can track it for reporting. And we now have the user back to business that never had to hit the service desk. So really driving automation at the first level. What we're able to do is to take that a step further with natural language. And if I had to go along and say, I can't log into Outlook, what we'll see is we don't prompt the user now, in this instance, for which application. We're able to extract using natural language that it was the Outlook application, and would you like to reset your password? We now go through the same process. Will vary the end result. In this instance, it didn't work. I still have an issue. So what we want to make sure is that we're delivering a good experience to the user, and therefore we want to do a warm handoff. So what happens is, no, it didn't work. Okay, at this point, what we want to do is we now want to go and log an incident so that it can be assigned to a group and they can then go and pick that up and work on that. So what you'll see now is just clicking on that. I'm logged in as administrator, so I will see a lot more over here by way of the menu items. But what you can see is we've created an incident in this particular instance. That's process dependent on how you determine whether you do a call as an incident or request. It's all agnostic from us. Processes are processes from a platform perspective. And what we've done is we've carried across the conversation that we had with the virtual agent, and we've made that available. We've gone and set the short description, auto unlock failed, and we've provided some description, and we'll then hand that off to a service agent. So you'll note that within the system, we have various views across data. In this particular instance, you'd see over here, this is the self-service view of looking at an incident record. In a moment, we'll have a look at what a service agent would see when they look at a particular record. So the virtual agent's not limited by any means to IT-specific type requests. We really have the virtual agent as the entry point into the system, regardless of whether it's an HR request or whether it's a facilities request. If I've provisioned my enterprise service management capability out to the organization, we want the user to have a single point where they can come in and the system determine, is this an HR request or is this an IT request, because often the user may not know which department they should be logging a ticket with. So if I were to come in and did something along the lines of, how much leave do I have? Now, we would assume that's an HR-based request, so the system comes up and says, I understand you're inquiring about your leave balance. Is that correct? We have various leave types where we are, so you could have annual leave, long service, or sick leave. It's about annual leave. And at this point, we're able to connect to Workday and actually go and retrieve that information and make that available to the user. So the virtual agents really becomes that triage of understanding what the user is looking for and then determining whether a call should be logged with IT, HR, facilities, etc., using natural language to really understand what it is that we need to have done. So if we take that a step further and look at how do we use it to really start to drive operational automation, I need a guest Wi-Fi account. So the system comes up and says, I understand you'd like to guest access for the wireless network. So you'll note again, using natural language, synonyms and things like that come into play, Wi-Fi, wireless, etc., all being synonymous. Great, let me ask you a few questions. Who is this for? John Wayne, when do you need the requirement for? I'd like it tomorrow. I'd like it for 1 week. You'll see we do the date conversions. Is this correct? Just to confirm. Yes, that's correct. System connects into the Wi-Fi provisioning, comes back and gives me a passcode and will send me an email with those details. So I didn't have to put in a request and wait 3 days before IT could send that back to me. I could fully automate that via the self-service portal. Within the self-service portal, we have full service catalog capability. So you can have multiple catalogs. So if you have a look over here, we can have IT equipment, HR technology, for example. We can break that down into individual categories. If I had to look at ordering an iPhone, for example, I could go and say I'd like an iPhone. If I did a submit on that, that would then go and fire off the expected workflow with the approvals, the tasks, etc. that one would need. We can also support dynamic forms via the service catalog. So in this instance, we have a request for a new PC card. I'll just, in the interest of time and efficiency, I'll just put some information in the mandatory fields. And what you'll see is depending on what information I select, that dynamically prompts me for the additional information I need. So I think if we've seen one thing through COVID is the need for digitization of our business. And one of those things are how do I take paper-based forms and easily turn those into a digitized asset that I can then have a workflow and drive automation. So you can really get away from those complex forms, tick here, and actually build that out as a dynamic form very easily in the ServiceLead platform. So what we'll do is we'll now transition across to what do we do on the service agent side. So nice segue to get us across. Reset my Salesforce password. Now, ordinarily, if the user had typed that in at the how can I help you, the virtual agent would have picked that up and run with it. But for demo purposes, we'll do it this way to demonstrate how the system works. It won't let me in, and I'll do a submit. So what I'll do now is I'll actually go to that request. So now I've come across and I'm looking at it, and the way we've set this demo system up is we've created an interaction. You may choose to use interactions where you have calls coming in, you're not quite sure, do they go to HR, are they incidents, are they requests? But what you'll notice over here is the AI engine has actually kicked in and said, look, I understand that when it's a Salesforce password request, based on all the previous calls that I've seen, it's actually that gets categorized as an ITSM request. You can see over here, service agent can go and change that. Again, we use that as a reinforced learning process. But let's stick with the ITSM request. The system's also provided recommendations on knowledge. And again, this knowledge is available from any knowledge source, both internal and external. So what we'll do is we'll say, right, let's classify this request because we would like to create it as a ITSM request so we can follow it through its respective workflow. And what you'll see is the system again created the record for us. It's carried across the information. It's set the classification and the service for us. It's set the assignment group, and that's all using the AI capability to make those determinations. It's taken it a step further, and it's provided, based on observation of how previous agents have solved these issues, it's provided a recommendation on an action that you may want to take. And it's fairly confident. It's a demo system, so surprise, surprise, we run similar demo scenarios. So it's fairly confident that you're going to want to reset the account and email the link to the user. So rather than having to swivel chair, I'll simply say, yes, go ahead and execute that. You'll see over here in the journal field, it's done that, and I can then go and set that request to complete. So it's really about driving efficiency, providing the augmentation for the service agent, as well as then improving the efficiency. Just very quickly from a functional perspective, all the mature modules you'd expect to see within the system are there, so you can have multiple knowledge bases within the system as well as external. We've touched on interaction. We'll come back to ITSM to show you what we do with some more stuff around AI, supporting full outages, full CMDB capability, contract management, asset management, including financial asset management around depreciation, etc. We actually ship out the box a HR case management capability, survey, time tracking, and then reporting. So if we come back and have a look at probably the more interesting stuff is around what are we doing in logging incidents and leveraging artificial intelligence. So over here in this instance, somebody comes in, Jack in this instance came in. You'll note throughout the system, it's really been optimized from a user experience. So if I wanted to get any additional information as the service desk agent on Jack, I could simply click on the little eye over here, and that'll bring up all the information about Jack that I may need. So everything's one click away to get access to information. If I were to double click on that little eye, that would drill down to Jack's record, and assuming I have access to them. So in this instance, Jack has called in and said, my SAP session is locked. And what we see happen again is, sorry, let me just run this again here. I was on the Jack thingy. If I go here, Jack is, sorry, demo gremlins. Let me just reset this record. Jack is coming in, SAP session is locked. So what we'll see happen is, again, the system does the automated classification for us. We'll see over here in the journal field, it's Sophie, the system of intelligence, is telling us it's classified this incident. And what you'll see is it's actually taken it a step further where it's now 80% confident that the next most probable action the service desk agent is going to take is going to be to check to see if Jack's SAP session is locked. Ordinarily, what that would mean is you'd have to swivel chair to go and log into the SAP manager, find Jack's session and see what's happening with it. Whereas now we've automated that in machine time. The system's come back and said, yes, the session is locked. And it's now suggesting the next most probable action that you would want to take for this particular instance. And it's saying that the next most probable action is to unlock the session. Well, that sounds like a reasonable action to take. And again, what we see over here is Jack's session is unlocked. and we can now go and say set that call to resolved. So from a system perspective and a configurability perspective of the system, we are a platform. We've been architected as a platform, and essentially what that means is allowing customers to easily configure the system. So by way of example, obviously as the system administrator, if I was to go in here and say configure the form, I have the ability to go in. I'm now in the form builder. I can do things, existing fields, I can simply drag fields onto there, but I can also go and very easily create custom fields. So in this instance, let's say, I don't know, we wanted to create a new custom field on our incident form. What kind of field? Could be string, could be date, all the fields you'd expect. But in this instance, I actually want to reference this to the user table because I know I have those users loaded in the system already, so I want to actually reference that table. So what I'm able to do now is simply go and say select the user table, create a reverse relationship. So what that now means is if I'm looking at the user table, I will be able to, at the user table, I'll see all the incidents. That'll automatically create that relationship for me. So I'll go and say create and save. And what that does, straight from the UI now, I don't have to go into the back end to do any database stuff or anything. It's gone and it's created my SDI contact field, and that's automatically linked to the user record table, and I now have my company record. So very easy to be able to go and configure the system, either for existing forms that you have in the system, or alternatively, the ability to take that and go and create your own custom applications that you may have within the system. So if we take the AI component just a step further to see some of the other things that we actually do with AI. So we'll ignore the company field in the SDI that I've just put on there. We'll say in this instance, Dion's calling in and it's saying add Dion to the marketing distribution list. So again, we see the system's seen a number of these scenarios, so it knows exactly what the classification is, we know what the business service is, and we know which assignment group it's going to go to. We're providing the knowledge if there's anything that's relevant. But again, it's come up here and it said, oh, I've got an action, 98% confident the action you're going to want to take is actually add Dion to the distribution list. So at that point, I can go and execute that. And what you'll see is the system has, using natural language again, extracted the entities as we refer to them, saying, well, we know that who it is that we require it for, it's Dion Williams, and we know which group it is that we're wanting to add Dion to. So it's populated that automatically for us. Now, you can certainly have where these actions pop up and you need to provide additional parameters to it that maybe weren't provided in the description. You have the ability to go in and select those. But in this instance, it has selected all the right information for us. So what we do, we'll do a submit, and we'll see down here is it'll go off and it's now added Dion to that list. So you can get a sense of where we start to run the service desk with high volumes of calls and these repetitive type activities that the service desk agents are having to deal with. What we're able to do is very quickly streamline that process. Firstly, looking at it from a virtual agent on the service desk. We're unable to solve it on the service desk and somebody comes in via the phone or email, the mechanism whereby we're providing augmentation to those service desks and then ultimately starting to drive the automation of those particular incidents. Within the system, all the tips you'd expect to see as far as dashboards, etc. So if we were to have a look over here, I think we have a sample dashboard that we've created. These are all fully configurable. You can create as many dashboards as you want within the system. You can have those dashboards available to certain groups or private dashboards. All dashboards have drill down capability within the system. Once you've created a report, that report is then available to drag and drop onto a dashboard. You can set the dashboards to be auto refresh. So if you wanted to have that up on the big screen, you can hide the menu, put that up on the big screen, and do the classic Knox Center dashboard. I touched briefly on asset management. I have an instance here where we've actually got some demo data that's useful to look at. So if I have a look at this particular instance here, I've loaded up an asset management dashboard that we've got over here. So we do full asset management where we look at software asset management, including compliance. We tie the asset management into your contract, so being able to track things like asset warranties, assets by particular contracts that you have. We link those contracts into the actual process. So for example, if you're logging a call against a particular asset and it's under warranty, we can have the system pop up and say, this is under warranty, it should be assigned to a particular group. So the more information you have within the system, the richer we can make that process and automation within your organization. And the key thing that the Service Lead platform brings, because it's a platform that gives you a single system of record, it gives you the ability to easily transfer that data across processes, including any custom forms-based workflow applications that you may build on the system. So by way of example, if I said I want to go and look at the assets in a particular contract, I could drill down. In this instance, I'm seeing all the contracts that are, all the assets that are under that particular contract. If I drill down into a particular asset, I can have a look at that. If it had any software installed, I would see that. I can track things like depreciation through to disposal. I could see, as I mentioned over here, if I wanted to drill down into that company, I can see for that company if there were any particular contracts, which configuration items were on that particular company. So all that information, because of the way the data model works with the enterprise data model and shared resources, it makes it really, really easy to transverse across the system. So we've probably got 3 minutes left. I'm happy to open up the floor for any questions that anybody may have.
Thank you, Dean. That's a very comprehensive demo there, and very thought-provoking as well. Really thought-provoking. I think, you know, when we look what's happened this year and what's going to happen maybe over the next few years. More about ESM, yeah, absolutely, and very interested in the native SaaS from scratch sort of thing that you've got there. The observation, the agent observation, how does that work, right? Because I know that probably if we talk about this historically, it's always been you know, some organizations have done it very well, some organizations don't even touch with a barge pole because what it potentially means to the people who work there and this big brother stuff, all that wonderful stuff. The observation agents, right? How does that work? Are we talking desktop analytics? Are we talking voice analytics? How does the system work to capture that information to you know, so the end result is this learning AI? How does that work?
So throughout the system, what we've done is we've instrumented in the platform tracking and seeing what people are doing to solve issues. So one of the things we do is we bring all the actions that people would look to take into the platform, and we make that available to service agents to easily execute directly out of the platform. So what we've seen in the past is, and kind of what you're touching on, is you always end up with this out-of-band resolving of the issues, and that data never ends up in the platform. So we've instrumented it. So for example, when someone's creating an incident, and based on a particular natural language that they're typing here, and we're seeing that they're doing this, we're looking at what actions they're running, is we're actually using that to build up the machine models in the back end, and then use that to start to train the models. On the roadmap for us is starting to ingest those voice calls and actually taking the speaker identification of, you know, what's the issue, try this, and then taking those diagnostic steps and turning those into machine models. Yeah, and the intent around that. It really is thought-provoking, I think, to see something like that. Just one more question maybe before we finished. The virtual agent there, is that native as well? Is that part of the AI solution, or have you leveraged something like IBM Watson to support that? No, that's all native. So that's all our agent. Cool. That agent's also fully integrated into Slack, and Teams is currently in development and will be available in the next few weeks. So you could either have the virtual agent fully accessible through the portal, but I think if anything we've seen from COVID is people want to work in their collaboration tool, be that Teams or Slack, and that's available out the box today for Slack and soon to be for Microsoft Teams.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for that indeed. Hopefully you'll be joining us in the panel as well, not too far away. Excellent. So thank you very much, Dion. Really appreciate your time on that one as well. So we're going to end this broadcast here. We're going to get ready again for the next one. Again, that's going to take a couple of minutes or so. So please rejoin us. It'll be a few minutes. Just refresh your browser and you'll be back in. That's great. Thank you.